The Peton family Christmas had all the hallmarks of excess: a tree that looked like it belonged in a magazine, catered dishes from the priciest Georgetown restaurant, and my family's unwavering belief that they always knew what was best, especially for me. I perched quietly in a corner, dressed in my usual simple sweater and jeans, watching my sister Natalie flaunt her new Mercedes to our parents while her husband, Richard, droned on about his latest tech acquisition. At 36, I had perfected the art of being quietly present at these gatherings. Invisible, yet there. More wine. The Bordeaux. Not that cheap California swill your father insists on, my mother, Barbara, known to everyone as Alexis, barked from across the room, without bothering to approach. Of course, Mom, I said, rising to fetch the bottle. Still playing the perfect daughter, Natalie whispered as I passed. Some things never change. In the kitchen, I poured the wine with steady hands, peering out the window at my father's Bentley parked next to Natalie's Mercedes and Richard's Porsche. My 10-year-old Honda Civic sat humbly on the street. Alexis, Dad's voice rang from the living room. Come here. We have news. I returned with the wine, handed it over, and took my seat. Thomas Peton III, my father, stood near the fireplace like he was about to present quarterly results. At 67, he ran Peton Capital Management with unyielding control, managing $800 million and never letting anyone forget it. Your mother and I have made an executive decision about your property, he declared. My stomach sank. My property? The Spring Valley house you bought? Mom waved dismissively. The one you never even use? It's been empty for 3 years, gathering dust and wasting equity. I use it when I'm in town, I said softly. You're never in town, Natalie said, air quoting, work trips. That house sits empty most of the year. It's ridiculous. We sold it, Dad announced with pride. Excellent price, $2.8 million. Quick cash deal, smooth process. The room tilted slightly. You sold my house. Don't be dramatic, Mom said. It was practical. You added us as co-owners when you bought it. Remember? You wanted our expertise for estate planning. I did remember. 4 years ago, new to my role, I'd sought their guidance and, unsure of the legalities, agreed to co-ownership. You sold it without asking me, I said, voice steady. We handled the deal. You should be grateful, Dad corrected. After costs and our 20% finder's fee, you'll net $2.1 million. Check by New Year. Finder's fee? I echoed. We found the buyer, negotiated terms, closed the deal. That's compensation for our expertise, Mom explained, as if talking to a child. Richard leaned in, condescending. Honestly, Alexis, you should thank them. They turned a stagnant asset into cash while you were gallivanting on your little work trips. My consulting work? I asked. Whatever it is, Natalie said, shrugging. You never explain. International organizations, frequent travel, vague at best. And yet you drive a 2015 Honda. The house mattered to me, I said. Then use it, Dad said firmly. Real estate is investment, not sentiment. We maximized your return. You're welcome. I sipped my grocery store coffee, resisting the urge to glare at the imported beans my parents loved. When did you close? Yesterday, Mom said brightly. Christmas Eve. Buyer wanted a pre-year-end close. Paid cash. Who bought it? Some investment group, Dad said, scrolling his phone. Meridian Property Holdings. They flip luxury homes. Likely to renovate and resell for $4 million. You sold it to a flipper, I said quietly. The highest bidder wins, Dad replied. Capitalism, Alexis. Maybe if you spent less time on your mysterious work, you'd understand. Natalie stretched lazily. Anyway, crisis averted. That empty house was embarrassing. People kept asking about it. Can't have that, I muttered. No, we can't, Mom agreed, missing the sarcasm entirely. The Petons have a reputation to uphold. Your father sits on boards. I chair the hospital auxiliary. Natalie's on the museum council. We can't have a daughter who mismanages property. Of course not, I thought. My phone buzzed. I glanced down and froze. Urgent, security breach at Spring Valley residence. Unauthorized sale detected. Diplomatic security responding. Call immediately. Director Morrison. Excuse me, I said, standing. I need to take this call. Mom frowned. It's Christmas. Whatever emergency can wait. It can't, I said and left the room. In the quiet of the guest bathroom, I called Director Morrison. Alexis, we have a problem. Your parents sold the Spring Valley property to Meridian Holdings. Our system flagged it. They have no idea, I said. They think it's just a personal house. It's designated diplomatic property. Jesus, Morrison breathed. It's registered with the State Department. A secure diplomatic residence. Selling it without clearance is a federal violation. They'll reverse the sale, I said. But there could be charges: fraud, unauthorized sale of federal property, Foreign Missions Act violations. I stared at my reflection. 4 years as deputy chief of mission in Vienna. Careful, quiet work. Maintaining security protocols. Diplomatic housing in Spring Valley, selected for protection and registered federally. And my parents had just sold it for cash. I returned to the living room. Dad showed Richard the closing docs. Mom praised herself. No one noticed me. Everything okay? Natalie asked. Not really, I said, sitting. That call was from the State Department. About the house? Dad frowned. It's a private transaction. It's not private, I said. It's diplomatic property, part of my security protocol. The room fell silent. I'm not a consultant, I continued. I'm deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy in Vienna. The Spring Valley residence is my designated diplomatic housing. Registered, protected, federal property. That's absurd, Dad said, faltering. You sold federal property, I said calmly. But we didn't know. Natalie protested. Due diligence would have revealed it, I said. It was clearly marked in the property records. The house was registered with the State Department under diplomatic protocols. But you didn't bother to check, assuming you knew better than I did what the property was. Dad's phone rang. He answered, his face shifting from irritation to confusion to outright fear. Yes, this is Thomas Peton. What? Oh. Yes, I understand. When? He asked, voice tense. They're already here? Through the front window, I saw 3 black SUVs pulling into the driveway. Men and women in dark suits, badges flashing, approached the door. Dad ended the call, pale as a sheet. That was my lawyer, he muttered. The Diplomatic Security Service is here. They want to discuss the property sale. I know, I said. I warned you they were coming. Mom jumped up. This is a mistake. We'll explain. They'll understand. They'll understand that you sold diplomatic property without authorization, I said firmly. Her protest died as the doorbell rang again, more insistently. Richard shuffled to the door, his usual bravado gone, and opened it to reveal 5 agents in suits, badges prominent. The lead agent, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, addressed my parents. I'm Special Agent Jennifer Walsh, Diplomatic Security Service, she said. We need to discuss the unauthorized sale of 4750 Springland Lane. There must be some mistake, Dad started. No mistake, sir, Agent Walsh said firmly. That property is registered as a diplomatic residence under State Department rules. It cannot be sold, transferred, or altered without federal authorization. You executed a sale yesterday without clearance. We need to know how this happened. Mom's voice trembled. We didn't know it was diplomatic property. Our daughter never told us. Your daughter is Deputy Chief of Mission Alexis Peton, Agent Walsh replied, scanning her tablet. She has held that post for 4 years. The property was purchased in her name and immediately registered as secured diplomatic housing. The records are clear. Dad protested weakly. We didn't see that. You didn't look, Walsh corrected. We need you to come with us for questioning, Walsh continued. We also need to speak with the buyer and their representatives. This is a federal investigation into the unauthorized sale of diplomatic property. Federal investigation? Natalie whispered, pale. Are you involved? Walsh asked her. No, I'm just the sister. Then you're free to go. Mr. and Mrs. Peton, please come with us. Dad stammered. We need our lawyer. We have rights. Absolutely, Walsh said. You have the right to legal representation and the right to remain silent. I strongly advise exercising the latter until you have legal counsel. This is serious. Selling diplomatic property without authorization violates multiple federal statutes. Mom blurted out, we'll return the money. Just give us the buyer's information and we'll reverse it. It's not that simple, another agent interjected. The property is federally protected. The sale is void, but executing the transaction and receiving funds are separate violations. Violations of what? Dad demanded. The Foreign Missions Act, fraud, conspiracy, misrepresentation, Walsh said. We'll know more after investigation. Richard suddenly spoke. I advised on the sale. Helped structure the LLC. I didn't know about the diplomatic status. Then we'll need your statement as well, Mr. Chin, Walsh said. She turned to me. Deputy Chief Peton, we'll need your statement about the property, your position, and why your family had access to it. They were co-owners, I said. I added them when I first bought it, unsure of the legalities as a new diplomat. Poor judgment on my part. Written statement needed, Walsh confirmed. But for now, Mr. and Mrs. Peton, please come with us. Mom looked at me, teary-eyed. Fix this. You work for the government. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. I can't, I said quietly. You sold federal property. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime. Dad's voice rose. We're your parents. You owe us. I owe you nothing, I said calmly. You mocked my career, dismissed my choices, assumed you knew better than me. You sold my house without asking. Now you face the consequences. Mom repeated desperately, we didn't know. You didn't ask, I corrected. You assumed. Now you see that assumptions have consequences. Agent Walsh gestured toward the door. Mr. and Mrs. Peton, let's go. As they were escorted out, Natalie snapped. You're really letting them go like this? They're being questioned, not arrested, I said. You could stop this. You're a big diplomatic official. Tell them it's fine. It's not fine, I said. I can't tell federal agents to ignore a violation. That's not how it works. So you choose your job over family? Natalie accused. I choose reality over fantasy, I said. You treated me like I was incompetent. Now you see I understand the real world better than you do. Richard muttered something about lawyers. Natalie cried. I watched my parents' Bentley follow 3 federal SUVs down the driveway. My phone buzzed, a text from Director Morrison. Situation contained. Your parents are being questioned, not arrested. Depends on investigation. How are you? I typed back, I'm fine. Thank you. Another text from Walsh. Need your statement tomorrow, 9 a.m., State Department HQ, bring all property documentation. I'll be there, I responded. Natalie approached, tears genuine but eyes calculating. Alexis, please. For our parents. Can't you do something? What? Lie to federal investigators? Pretend it's not a violation? I asked. She hesitated. Remember how, for 4 years you treated me like I was stupid. I treated your mockery as the joke it was. You never listened. You dismissed my work, my travel, my career. You sold my home without asking. Now you face the consequences. That's your lesson. Richard warned about possible prison time. They might face charges, I said. But I'm not lying to protect them. What happens after my statement is out of my hands. Family doesn't excuse breaking the law. Natalie gasped. That's cold. Professional, I corrected. I'm held to a higher standard. They violated federal law. That matters more than loyalty. Director Morrison called. Alexis, we need you back in Vienna tonight. Yes, I said. I'll leave now. Natalie looked incredulous. You're leaving while federal agents question Mom and Dad? I have a job, I said simply. A real job. Their choices created this mess, not me. Richard asked what to tell them. Tell them to ask questions before assuming. Dismissing someone doesn't make them less competent. For years, I tried to teach that lesson. My life, and you spent 4 years refusing to listen, I said. You're really just leaving, Natalie said, not even disguising it as a question. I am, I confirmed. I have diplomatic cables to review, meetings with Austrian officials, and a security briefing tomorrow afternoon, Vienna time. Your drama doesn't take priority over my responsibilities. I walked to the door, paused, and turned back. One more thing. Once this investigation concludes, the property will be returned to my sole ownership. I'll remove all of you as co-owners, emergency contacts, and from any documentation related to my life. You've proven you cannot be trusted with my assets or my career information. Alexis, Natalie began. 4 years of condescension, dismissal, and assumptions, I interrupted. You earned this distance. Live with it. I left them in the ruins of Christmas, walked to my modest Honda Civic, and drove toward Dulles International Airport. My phone buzzed relentlessly, texts from Natalie, calls from Richard, voicemails from Dad's lawyer pleading for cooperation. I ignored everything. At the airport, I breezed through the diplomatic security lane, a perk they would never have understood. In the international terminal, I called Agent Walsh. Deputy Chief Peton, she answered. Heading back to Vienna, I said. Yes, Director Morrison needs you there. But I'll be available for secure communications or statements, she replied. Understood. For what it's worth, your parents claim they didn't know about the diplomatic status. They seem genuinely shocked. They are, I said. Shocked that I'm not incompetent, that their assumptions were wrong, and that actions have consequences. Harsh, Walsh said. Accurate, I corrected. 4 years of dismissing my career led directly to their federal troubles. The irony isn't lost on me. Will you seek leniency? She asked. No, I said. I'll report the facts. Prosecutors decide the rest. I boarded my flight, business class, another benefit my family had never grasped, and began drafting my statement, factual, thorough, and unsentimental. 3 weeks later, an encrypted update from Agent Walsh confirmed the investigation's outcome. My parents were charged with unauthorized sale of federal property and fraud. Meridian Property Holdings had been charged with attempting to purchase protected diplomatic property. The sale was reversed, the property restored to me, and my parents ordered to repay the $560,000 finder's fee plus penalties. Through a plea agreement, they avoided prison but received 2 years probation, hefty fines, and permanent flags on their professional records. Dad's corporate board seats were jeopardized. Mom resigned from the hospital auxiliary. Natalie sent 47 texts and 12 emails, all variations of, "How could you do this to our family?" I didn't respond. 6 months later, a letter arrived via State Department channels. My parents' handwriting on elegant stationery, still trying to claim dignity. Alexis, we've completed probation and paid all penalties. Our lawyer says the case is closed. We're sorry for not understanding your career. We should have asked questions instead of assuming. We hope you can forgive us and that one day we can rebuild our relationship. We're proud of you, even though we failed to show it when it mattered. Love, Mom and Dad. I read it twice, then filed it away. 2 weeks later, Natalie called through the embassy switchboard. Alexis, please. They're truly sorry. They've lost so much. Can't you at least talk to them? Why? I asked. Because they're your parents. They were my parents when they sold my house without permission, I said. When they took $560,000. When they spent 4 years treating me like I was incompetent. Being parents didn't stop any of that. That's different, she said. They could have asked before selling, but they didn't. So, forgiveness? I said. Not now. Maybe not for years. They need to understand that actions have consequences, dismissing someone has costs, and assumptions can destroy relationships. Only then can we talk. That's not fair, she protested. No, I said. What's not fair is 4 years of being treated like a failure. What's not fair is having my home sold without consent. What's not fair is being expected to forgive instantly. What do you want from them? Nothing, I said simply. I have a career I love, colleagues who respect me, work that matters. They must earn any relationship with me. That starts with accepting that I don't owe them forgiveness just because they've apologized. I returned to my work, negotiations with Austrian officials on trade policy. Complex, strategic, and impactful work. Work that mattered far more than their belated remorse. 3 years later, I was named U.S. Ambassador to Switzerland, the youngest female ambassador in U.S. history, fluent in 4 languages, with extensive diplomatic experience. My parents sent flowers and a card. I acknowledged receipt through my assistant. 5 years after Spring Valley, I was in D.C. for a conference. On a whim, I drove past their Georgetown home. Dad answered the door, older, diminished. The Bentley replaced by a modest Lexus, the house looked smaller somehow. Alexis, he said, voice cracking. You came? I was nearby, I said. Thought I'd stop. Please come in. Mom stood nervously. Alexis, it's so good to see you. You look well, I said neutrally. We're proud, Dad said quietly. Ambassador to Switzerland. We see it now. I appreciate that, I said. But I'm not ready to rebuild what we had. We understand, Mom said quickly. We hope someday you might. Maybe, I said. But today, I forgive. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve not to carry anger. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation, it's letting go. That's fair, Dad whispered. I have a conference, I said, moving to the door. But I wanted you to know, I've built a life that matters with or without your recognition. We see you now, Mom said. Too late, but we see you. I nodded and left. Director Morrison called, how did it go? As well as it could. They apologized. I accepted. Are you okay? I'm fine. My past is theirs. My work is mine. Good. The secretary is recommending you for deputy secretary. Vetting starts next month. Deputy Secretary of State? I'm interested, I said. You've earned it, Alexis. Your work in Vienna, leadership during the refugee crisis, trade negotiations, you're exactly what state needs. I drove away from Georgetown. Behind me, the world that once diminished me shrank. Ahead, Washington, the State Department, a career that had proven my family wrong. They assumed incompetence. They assumed failure. The truth had exposed them. I had built a life without needing their approval, and that, I thought, was real success. The kind that lasts. The kind they would never understand. And I was free.